Question 1. Assessment of the most appropriate strategy for implementing a significant upgrade to the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM, considering the potential impact on service availability and data integrity. Option A. Implement the POM upgrade in a phased manner, starting with a pilot group of users in a controlled environment, followed by a gradual rollout to the entire user base, with a comprehensive rollback plan in place. Option B. Deploy the POM upgrade during peak business hours to ensure maximum visibility of any immediate issues by the largest number of users. Option C. Execute a big bang deployment of the POM upgrade across all production systems simultaneously, without prior extensive testing in a staging environment. Option D. Postpone the POM upgrade indefinitely until all potential risks and complexities are fully understood, even if it means operating with an outdated system. Correct answer is A. Implement the POM upgrade in a phased manner, starting with a pilot group of users in a controlled environment, followed by a gradual rollout to the entire user base, with a comprehensive rollback plan in place. Explanation: the implementation of Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM involves managing sensitive customer data and ensuring service availability. A professionally challenging scenario arises when balancing the need for system upgrades and feature enhancements with the imperative to maintain uninterrupted service and protect customer privacy, especially in a regulated environment. This requires careful planning, risk assessment, and adherence to established protocols. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, controlled rollout of the POM upgrade. This methodology minimizes the risk of widespread service disruption and data integrity issues. By conducting thorough testing in a staging environment that mirrors production, potential conflicts or bugs can be identified and resolved before impacting live users. The rollback plan ensures that if unforeseen problems occur during the production deployment, the system can be quickly reverted to a stable state, thereby upholding service level agreements, SLAs, and maintaining customer trust. This aligns with general principles of IT service management. In a regulated context, will be supported by guidelines emphasizing risk mitigation and business continuity. An incorrect approach that involves an immediate, untested, big bang deployment of the POM upgrade is professionally unacceptable. This method carries an extremely high risk of system failure, leading to significant service outages. Such an outage could violate regulatory requirements related to service availability and data accessibility, potentially resulting in fines or reputational damage. Furthermore, deploying without adequate testing increases the likelihood of introducing security vulnerabilities or data corruption, which are critical ethical and regulatory failures. Another incorrect approach, which is to delay the upgrade indefinitely due to fear of disruption, is also professionally unsound. While caution is necessary, stagnation can lead to the system becoming outdated, less secure, and unable to support new business requirements or comply with evolving regulations. This passive approach fails to proactively manage technological obsolescence and can ultimately lead to greater risks down the line. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk management framework. This includes identifying potential risks associated with the proposed change, e.g., service interruption, data loss, security breaches, assessing the likelihood and impact of each risk, developing mitigation strategies, e.g., phased deployment, comprehensive testing, rollback plans, and establishing clear communication channels with stakeholders. A thorough understanding of the Avaya Aura Experience Portal and POM functionalities, coupled with adherence to best practices in change management and IT governance, is crucial for making informed and responsible decisions. Question 2. Comparative studies suggest that the implementation of Avaya Aura Experience Portal with POM can be approached in several ways regarding compliance and functionality. When configuring POM for call recording and agent monitoring, which approach best balances regulatory adherence with operational effectiveness. Option A. Implement POM features strictly according to vendor best practices for performance enhancement, with regulatory compliance being addressed only if specific issues are flagged by an audit. Option B. Focus on deploying the most cost-effective POM configuration that meets basic operational needs, deferring any advanced compliance-related configurations to a later phase to manage immediate project budgets. Option C. Prioritize the configuration of all available POM monitoring and recording features to maximize agent oversight and performance data collection, assuming that any data collected is inherently beneficial for compliance. Option D. Design and configure POM features for call recording and agent monitoring with explicit consideration for data privacy regulations, ensuring data is stored securely, access is restricted, and audit trails are maintained, even if it means limiting certain advanced monitoring capabilities. The correct answer is C. Prioritize the configuration of all available POM monitoring and recording features to maximize agent oversight and performance data collection, assuming that any data collected is inherently beneficial for compliance. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because implementing and maintaining Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM involves intricate configurations that directly impact customer experience and data handling. Ensuring compliance with regulatory frameworks, particularly concerning data privacy and service availability, is paramount. The challenge lies in balancing technical implementation with adherence to these regulations, which often have strict requirements for data storage, access, and audit trails. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and application of the specific regulatory framework governing telecommunications and data handling within the relevant jurisdiction. This includes ensuring that POM configurations align with data privacy laws, e.g., GDPR if applicable, or equivalent local regulations, service level agreements, and any mandated reporting or auditing requirements. By proactively identifying and mitigating risks related to data breaches, unauthorized access, and service disruptions through compliant configurations, professionals uphold their ethical duty to protect customer data and ensure reliable service delivery. This aligns with the principles of due diligence and responsible system management expected within the industry. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical functionality without considering regulatory implications is professionally unacceptable. For instance, implementing POM features that inadvertently store sensitive customer data in non-compliant locations or without proper consent mechanisms would violate data privacy regulations. This failure to adhere to legal requirements can lead to significant fines, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Another failure would be neglecting to implement audit logging as required by regulations, which hinders investigations into potential security incidents or compliance breaches. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive review of all applicable regulatory requirements relevant to AEP and POM deployments. This should be followed by a risk assessment that identifies potential compliance gaps in proposed configurations. Technical solutions should then be designed and implemented with these regulatory constraints as a primary consideration, not an afterthought. Regular audits and reviews of the implemented system against regulatory standards are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and to adapt to any changes in the regulatory landscape. Question 3. Compliance review shows that a critical security vulnerability has been identified for the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM, requiring immediate patching. The IT team is considering several approaches to address this vulnerability. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and compliant strategy for implementing the necessary security patches? Option A. Apply the security patches only to the AEP components, as POM is a separate application and its patching schedule is managed independently. Option B. Schedule a maintenance window to test the security patches in a staging environment that mirrors the production setup, followed by a phased rollout to production systems, starting with non-critical components, while closely monitoring system performance and stability. Option C. Immediately deploy all available security patches directly to the production AEP and POM environment to ensure the quickest possible mitigation of the vulnerability. Option D. Defer the patching process until the next scheduled major system upgrade to minimize disruption to daily operations, assuming the vulnerability is not actively being exploited against the organization. Correct answer is C. Immediately deploy all available security patches directly to the production AEP and POM environment to ensure the quickest possible mitigation of the vulnerability. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of maintaining uninterrupted service for Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM, especially when dealing with potential security vulnerabilities. The need to balance immediate threat mitigation with long-term system stability and compliance requires careful judgment. The challenge lies in selecting the most appropriate patching strategy that minimizes risk to ongoing operations while adhering to Avaya's recommended maintenance procedures and any applicable regulatory guidelines for service availability and data protection. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a controlled and validated deployment of security patches. This involves thorough testing in a non-production environment to identify any potential conflicts or adverse effects on AEP and POM functionality. Following this, a phased rollout, beginning with less critical systems and progressing to production, allows for real-time monitoring and rollback capabilities if issues arise. This methodical process aligns with best practices for IT service management and security patching, ensuring that the integrity and availability of the AEP and POM services are maintained, thereby meeting service level agreements and potentially regulatory requirements for service continuity. An incorrect approach that involves immediately applying all available patches directly to the production environment without prior testing is professionally unacceptable. This bypasses essential validation steps, significantly increasing the risk of system instability, service outages, and data corruption. Such an action could lead to breaches of service-level agreements and potentially violate regulations mandating service availability and data integrity. Another incorrect approach, which is to delay patching indefinitely due to fear of disruption, is also professionally unacceptable. This creates a significant security risk by leaving the system vulnerable to known exploits. In the event of a security incident, the organization could face severe regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and financial losses. This failure to proactively manage security risks demonstrates a lack of due diligence and adherence to responsible IT security practices. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a risk-based assessment. This includes understanding the severity of the vulnerability, the potential impact of exploitation, the availability and stability of testing environments, and the organization's tolerance for downtime. A structured approach, such as the ITIL framework for incident and change management, should be followed. This involves clear communication with stakeholders, detailed planning, rigorous testing, phased deployment, and comprehensive monitoring, ensuring that all actions are documented and justifiable from a security and operational perspective. Question 4. To address the challenge of ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations when managing customer interaction recordings within the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM, which of the following strategies best aligns with regulatory requirements and professional best practices? Option A. Disregard customer requests for access to or deletion of their call recordings, citing business operational needs as the primary justification. Option B. Grant all customer service agents full access to the entire archive of call recordings to facilitate immediate review and training on demand. Option C. Retain all call recordings indefinitely to ensure maximum availability for potential future audits or dispute resolution, without specific access restrictions beyond basic system login. Option D. Implement a policy that defines strict retention periods for call recordings, ensures secure storage with granular access controls based on job function, and provides clear customer notification regarding recording practices. The correct answer is D. Implement a policy that defines strict retention periods for call recordings, ensures secure storage with granular access controls based on job function, and provides clear customer notification regarding recording practices. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in Avaya Aura Experience Portal EAP with POM implementations, ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations when handling customer interaction recordings. The core difficulty lies in balancing the business need for recording for quality assurance and training purposes against the legal and ethical obligations to protect sensitive customer information. Mismanagement of these recordings can lead to significant regulatory penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The challenge is amplified by the distributed nature of POM data and the need for robust access controls and retention policies. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves implementing a comprehensive data governance strategy that aligns with relevant data privacy regulations. This includes establishing clear policies for data collection, storage, access, and deletion of call recordings. Specifically, it requires configuring POM to adhere to defined retention periods, ensuring that recordings are securely stored and accessible only to authorized personnel for legitimate business purposes. Furthermore, it necessitates providing customers with clear notice and, where applicable, obtaining consent for recording, as mandated by privacy laws. This approach demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing regulatory compliance and customer privacy, thereby mitigating legal risks and fostering trust. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to retain all call recordings indefinitely without a defined policy or justification. This violates data minimization principles inherent in most privacy regulations, such as GDPR or CCPA, which require data to be kept only as long as necessary for the purpose for which it was collected. It also increases the risk of data breaches and unauthorized access to sensitive information. Another incorrect approach is to grant broad access to call recording archives to all customer service representatives. This disregards the principle of least privilege, a fundamental security and privacy control. Unauthorized access to recordings, even if unintentional, can lead to privacy violations and potential misuse of sensitive customer data, contravening regulatory requirements for data protection. A third incorrect approach is to ignore customer requests for data deletion or access to their recordings. Privacy regulations often grant individuals specific rights regarding their personal data, including the right to access and request deletion. Failing to honor these requests is a direct violation of these rights and can result in severe penalties. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a proactive and compliance-driven approach to managing AEP with POM. This involves understanding the specific data privacy regulations applicable to their operating jurisdiction and integrating these requirements into the design, implementation, and ongoing maintenance of the AEP and POM systems. A robust decision-making process would involve 1. Identifying all applicable data privacy laws and guidelines. 2. Conducting a thorough risk assessment of data handling practices. 3. Developing and documenting clear data governance policies and procedures. 4. Configuring POM and AEP to enforce these policies, including access controls, retention schedules, and audit trails. 5. Providing regular training to staff on data privacy obligations. 6. Establishing mechanisms for handling customer inquiries and requests related to their data. Question 5. The efficiency study reveals that a critical security vulnerability has been identified in the Avaya Aura Experience Portal EAP and its associated POM components. A vendor-provided patch is available, but the IT operations team has expressed concerns that applying it directly to the production environment could disrupt ongoing customer service operations, which are at peak capacity. The team is debating the best course of action to address this vulnerability while minimizing operational impact. What is the most appropriate professional approach to manage this security vulnerability? Option A. Defer the application of the security patch until after the peak operational period has concluded, and then apply it without extensive testing, assuming the vulnerability is unlikely to be exploited during the current high-demand phase. Option B. Deploy the security patch to a staging environment that mirrors the production setup for thorough testing. Once validated, implement the patch during a scheduled maintenance window, communicating any potential risks to stakeholders in advance. Option C. Immediately deploy the security patch to all production AEP and POM servers to ensure the vulnerability is addressed as quickly as possible, accepting the risk of potential temporary service disruptions. Option D. Implement a temporary workaround solution to mitigate the immediate risk of the vulnerability without applying the vendor patch, and postpone the patch deployment indefinitely until a more convenient time. The correct answer is B. Deploy the security patch to a staging environment that mirrors the production setup for thorough testing. Once validated, implement the patch during a scheduled maintenance window, communicating any potential risks to stakeholders in advance. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in managing complex telecommunication systems like Avaya Aura Experience Portal EAP with POM. The core difficulty lies in balancing the immediate need for system stability and user access with the long-term implications of security vulnerabilities and compliance requirements. The efficiency study highlights a potential gap between operational performance and adherence to established security protocols, which is a critical area for IT professionals. The correct approach, which involves a phased rollout of the security patch after thorough testing in a controlled environment, represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified vulnerability while minimizing risk to ongoing operations. This aligns with the principles of responsible system management and security best practices, which are often implicitly or explicitly mandated by regulatory frameworks governing data protection and system integrity. By testing the patch, the implementation team ensures that it does not negatively impact AEP or POM functionality, thereby preventing service disruptions and maintaining user trust. This methodical approach also supports auditability and compliance, as it demonstrates a proactive and risk-averse strategy for addressing security concerns. An incorrect approach that bypasses testing and immediately deploys the patch to all production systems would be professionally unacceptable due to significant regulatory and ethical failures. Such an action disregards the potential for unintended consequences, such as system instability, data corruption, or service outages, which could lead to breaches of service-level agreements (SLAs) and potential noncompliance with data protection regulations, e.g., GDPR if applicable to the jurisdiction, or similar data privacy laws. Also fails to uphold the ethical responsibility to protect the integrity and availability of the systems entrusted to the IT team. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the patch due to perceived operational inconvenience, is equally problematic. This demonstrates a failure to recognize and mitigate known security risks, which can expose the organization to significant liabilities, including data breaches, financial losses, and reputational damage. Ethically, it represents negligence and a dereliction of duty to safeguard organizational assets and user data. This approach also directly contravenes security mandates and compliance requirements that necessitate timely patching of known vulnerabilities. A third incorrect approach, which is to seek a workaround without applying the patch, might seem like a temporary solution, but often introduces its own set of risks and complexities. While it might address the immediate symptom, it does not resolve the underlying vulnerability and could lead to a more complex and difficult-to-manage system state. This can also create compliance issues if the workaround itself is not documented, approved, and does not meet security standards, potentially leading to audit failures. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk assessment framework. This includes identifying the vulnerability, understanding its potential impact, evaluating available solutions, patches, workarounds, assessing the risks associated with each solution, and then implementing the chosen solution in a controlled and documented manner. Prioritization should be given to solutions that offer the best balance of security, stability, and compliance, with a strong emphasis on testing and validation before widespread deployment. Question 6. The monitoring system demonstrates a significant increase in call setup latency and a higher rate of dropped calls originating from the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) interacting with the POM application. Initial troubleshooting has not identified any obvious network congestion or external system failures. What is the most appropriate next step to diagnose and resolve this performance degradation? Option A. Initiate a full restart of the AEP and POM services to clear any potential transient issues and restore normal operation. Option B. Implement a series of undocumented configuration parameter adjustments within the AEP and POM to see if any changes improve performance. Option C. Review AEP and POM application logs, performance counters, and call detail records, CDR, for anomalies, correlating timestamps with the reported latency and drop issues to identify specific error patterns or resource bottlenecks within the applications. Option D. Focus exclusively on analyzing external network traffic and firewall logs to rule out any upstream connectivity problems impacting AEP and POM. The correct answer is A. Initiate a full restart of the AEP and POM services to clear any potential transient issues and restore normal operation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) and its integration with POM for customer interactions. The core issue revolves around identifying and rectifying a performance degradation that impacts service availability and quality, directly affecting customer experience and potentially business operations. The need for swift, accurate diagnosis and resolution, while adhering to operational procedures and maintaining system integrity, is paramount. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation that prioritizes understanding the root cause of the AEP performance issue before implementing any changes. This aligns with best professional practices for system maintenance and troubleshooting. Specifically, it emphasizes leveraging the diagnostic tools within AEP and POM, correlating logs, and analyzing performance metrics. This methodical process ensures that any remediation steps are targeted and effective, minimizing the risk of further disruption. From a regulatory and compliance standpoint, maintaining system availability and performance is often implicitly or explicitly required by service-level agreements, SLAs, and industry standards related to telecommunications and customer service. A proactive and thorough approach demonstrates due diligence in upholding these commitments. An incorrect approach that immediately restarts services without diagnosis is professionally unacceptable. This bypasses the critical step of understanding the underlying problem, potentially masking the root cause and leading to recurring issues. It represents a failure in due diligence and a disregard for systematic problem solving, which could violate operational policies and SLAs. Restarting services without a clear understanding of the impact could also inadvertently cause data loss or further system instability, leading to regulatory or contractual breaches if service disruptions are significant. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on external network factors without thoroughly investigating the AEP and POM systems themselves, is also professionally unsound. While external factors can contribute, a comprehensive investigation must begin with the systems directly reporting the issue. Neglecting internal diagnostics is a failure to exhaust all reasonable troubleshooting steps, potentially leading to prolonged downtime and customer dissatisfaction. This can be seen as a breach of professional responsibility to thoroughly investigate issues within one's purview. Finally, an incorrect approach that involves making undocumented configuration changes to AEP or POM in an attempt to resolve the issue is highly problematic. This violates fundamental IT best practices regarding change management and system documentation. Such actions can introduce new, unforeseen problems, make future troubleshooting more difficult, and are a direct contravention of audit trails and compliance requirements. It demonstrates a lack of discipline and a disregard for the stability and maintainability of the system. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Acknowledging and documenting the reported issue. 2. Initiating a structured diagnostic process, starting with the most likely causes and utilizing available monitoring and logging tools. 3. Correlating data from different system components, EAP, POM, underlying infrastructure. 4. Formulating hypotheses about the root cause based on evidence. 5. Testing hypotheses with targeted, controlled actions. 6. Implementing solutions based on confirmed root causes, following change management procedures. 7. Verifying resolution and documenting findings. Question 7. Stakeholder feedback indicates that customer interaction recordings within the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM are being retained for an extended period, raising concerns about potential data privacy violations. Which of the following actions represents the most appropriate and compliant approach to address this feedback? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of current data retention policies and procedures for call recordings, cross-referencing them with applicable data protection regulations, and seeking expert legal counsel to identify and rectify any non-compliance. Option B. Immediately implement a new, longer data retention policy for all customer interaction recordings to ensure sufficient data is available for future analysis and troubleshooting. Option C. Advise stakeholders that data retention is a technical operational matter and not a concern for regulatory compliance, suggesting they focus on system performance metrics. Option D. Update the system to automatically delete all customer interaction recordings after a standard period, without first verifying if this period aligns with specific regulatory requirements or business needs. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive review of current data retention policies and procedures for call recordings, cross-referencing them with applicable data protection regulations, and seeking expert legal counsel to identify and rectify any non-compliance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in implementing and maintaining Avaya Aura Experience Portal, EAP, with POM. Ensuring compliance with data privacy regulations when handling customer interaction data. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for effective system operation and troubleshooting with the strict requirements of data protection laws, which can be complex and carry significant penalties for non-compliance. The need for careful judgment arises from interpreting vague feedback and translating it into concrete, compliant actions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough review of existing data handling policies and procedures against current regulatory requirements. This aligns with best professional practice by proactively identifying potential compliance gaps before they lead to breaches. Specifically, it demonstrates adherence to the principle of privacy by design and privacy by default, which are foundational to many data protection frameworks. By seeking expert legal counsel, the implementation team ensures that their actions are not only technically sound, but also legally defensible, mitigating the risk of regulatory penalties and reputational damage. This approach emphasizes due diligence and a commitment to ethical data stewardship. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately implementing broad data retention policies without a clear understanding of their regulatory implications. This fails to consider the principle of data minimization, a core tenet of data protection, which mandates retaining data only for as long as necessary for specified purposes. Such an action could lead to the unnecessary storage of sensitive information, increasing the risk of a data breach and violating regulations that limit data retention periods. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the stakeholder feedback as non-technical and therefore irrelevant to system maintenance. This demonstrates a failure to recognize that regulatory compliance is an integral part of system governance and operational integrity. Ignoring feedback that touches upon data handling practices, even if framed in non-technical terms, can lead to the perpetuation of non-compliant practices, exposing the organization to legal repercussions and undermining trust. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on vendor documentation for compliance guidance without independent legal review. While vendor documentation is valuable, it may not fully encompass the specific regulatory landscape of the operating jurisdiction or address the unique implementation context. This approach risks overlooking critical local requirements and can lead to a false sense of security regarding compliance, potentially resulting in significant legal and financial penalties. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situations should adopt a structured decision-making process. First, thoroughly understand the nature of the feedback and its potential implications for data handling. Second, consult relevant internal policies and external regulatory frameworks applicable to the operating jurisdiction. Third, engage with legal and compliance experts to interpret these frameworks and assess the current state of compliance. Fourth, develop and implement remediation plans that are both technically feasible and legally sound, prioritizing data minimization, purpose limitation, and secure data handling. Finally, establish ongoing monitoring and review mechanisms to ensure sustained compliance. Question 8. Consider a scenario where a company is implementing a new proactive outreach campaign using the Avaya Aura Experience Portal with POM. The campaign aims to collect customer feedback on recent service interactions. The implementation team is eager to launch the campaign quickly to gather timely feedback. What is the most appropriate approach to ensure regulatory compliance during this implementation? Option A. Rely on the Avaya Aura Experience Portal's built-in security features to automatically ensure compliance with all relevant regulations without further assessment. Option B. Proceed with the campaign launch immediately, assuming that existing general data privacy policies for the company will cover this new initiative. Option C. Deploy the campaign and address any potential regulatory concerns that may arise after the launch, prioritizing speed of deployment over preemptive compliance checks. Option D. Conduct a thorough regulatory impact assessment for the new campaign, ensuring all data collection and handling practices align with applicable data privacy laws, and obtaining necessary customer consents before launch. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough regulatory impact assessment for the new campaign, ensuring all data collection and handling practices align with applicable data privacy laws, and obtaining necessary customer consents before launch. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of regulatory compliance in telecommunications and the potential for significant penalties for non-adherence. The Avaya Aura Experience Portal with POM, Proactive Outreach Manager, handles sensitive customer interactions and data, making adherence to data privacy and security regulations paramount. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient system operation and feature deployment with the strict requirements of regulatory frameworks. Careful judgment is required to ensure all implemented changes and ongoing operations meet these standards without compromising service delivery or customer trust. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a proactive and documented process for regulatory compliance. This involves understanding the specific regulations applicable to the jurisdiction, e.g., GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California, or relevant U.S. federal regulations like HIPAA if applicable to the data handled by POM. It necessitates integrating compliance checks into the implementation and maintenance lifecycle, ensuring that any configuration, data handling, or feature activation within the Avaya Aura Experience Portal and POM is assessed against these regulatory requirements. This includes obtaining necessary consents, implementing data minimization principles, ensuring data security, and establishing clear audit trails. This systematic approach minimizes the risk of breaches and ensures ongoing adherence, which is a fundamental ethical and legal obligation. An incorrect approach that involves deploying new POM campaigns without a prior regulatory impact assessment is professionally unacceptable. This failure directly violates regulatory requirements concerning data privacy and consent. For instance, if the campaign involves collecting or processing personal data without explicit consent, it would contravene regulations like GDPR or similar data protection laws. Another incorrect approach, such as assuming existing security measures are sufficient for new POM functionalities without verification, risks data breaches and non-compliance with security mandates. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the evolving threat landscape and regulatory expectations. Finally, neglecting to document compliance efforts or audit trails leaves the organization vulnerable during regulatory reviews and audits, failing to demonstrate accountability and adherence. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with identifying all applicable regulatory frameworks for the specific jurisdiction and the type of data being handled. This should be followed by a thorough risk assessment for any proposed implementation or change, specifically evaluating its impact on regulatory compliance. Implementing a robust change management process that includes mandatory compliance sign-offs before deployment is crucial. Regular audits and reviews of system configurations and operational procedures are also essential to ensure sustained compliance. Continuous training and awareness programs for the implementation and maintenance teams on relevant regulations are vital to foster a culture of compliance. Question 9. The investigation demonstrates that during the implementation of an Avaya Aura Experience Portal with POM, a critical third-party integration was established without a comprehensive review of its data handling practices against the relevant data protection regulations. This oversight was discovered during a post-implementation audit, raising concerns about potential non-compliance with data privacy laws. Which of the following approaches best addresses this situation and ensures future adherence to regulatory frameworks? Option A. Initiate a thorough review of the third-party integration's data handling processes, engaging legal and compliance experts to assess adherence to all applicable data protection regulations, and implement necessary controls or contractual amendments before continuing full data exchange. Option B. Immediately cease all data exchange with the third-party integration until a full compliance audit can be completed and all identified risks remediated. Option C. Rely on the existing technical documentation of the integration to confirm compliance, as it outlines the data fields being exchanged and their intended use. Option D. Proceed with the integration as planned, assuming the third-party vendor adheres to standard industry best practices for data protection, and address any potential issues reactively if they arise. The correct answer is B. Immediately cease all data exchange with the third-party integration until a full compliance audit can be completed and all identified risks remediated. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a common challenge in implementing and maintaining Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM, ensuring regulatory compliance, particularly concerning data privacy and security, when integrating with third-party systems. The professional challenge lies in balancing the functional requirements of the AEP/POM solution with the stringent legal and ethical obligations to protect sensitive customer information. This requires a deep understanding of the specific regulatory framework applicable to the jurisdiction in which the system operates. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, documented, and proactive assessment of compliance risks. This involves engaging legal and compliance experts early in the implementation lifecycle, conducting detailed data flow mapping, and ensuring that all data handling practices align with the specified regulatory framework. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of noncompliance, which can lead to severe penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Adhering to the principle of privacy by design is paramount. An incorrect approach that fails to involve legal counsel or compliance officers from the outset is professionally unacceptable. This oversight can lead to the implementation of systems or processes that inadvertently violate data protection laws, such as those governing the collection, storage, processing, or transfer of personal data. Such failures can result in significant fines and legal repercussions. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on technical functionality without considering the regulatory implications of data handling, is also professionally flawed. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the legal obligations associated with managing customer data. It can lead to breaches of privacy, unauthorized access, or improper disclosure of sensitive information, all of which are serious regulatory violations. Finally, an approach that relies on assumptions about data handling practices without explicit verification or contractual agreements with third-party vendors is professionally risky. This lack of rigorous verification can expose the organization to compliance gaps and potential liabilities if the third-party vendor's practices do not meet regulatory standards. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk-based approach. This means identifying potential compliance risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, and implementing appropriate controls. Key steps include understanding the specific regulatory requirements, performing a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment, establishing clear data governance policies, ensuring robust security measures, and maintaining detailed audit trails. Continuous monitoring and regular reviews are essential to adapt to evolving regulations and system changes. Question 10. Upon reviewing the proposed implementation of a new proactive outreach campaign feature within the Avaya Aura Experience Portal's POM module, which requires the collection and processing of customer interaction data, what is the most critical step to ensure strict adherence to all applicable regulatory frameworks governing data privacy and system integrity? Option A. Rely on the existing security protocols of the Avaya Aura Experience Portal to inherently satisfy all regulatory requirements for the new POM feature, assuming no specific changes are needed. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment and compliance validation of the new feature against all relevant regulatory requirements before deployment, ensuring all data handling, storage, and access controls meet mandated standards. Option C. Obtain verbal confirmation from the legal department that the feature is likely compliant, and proceed with deployment, addressing any specific concerns that may arise during operational use. Option D. Proceed with the deployment of the new feature immediately to leverage its business benefits, and schedule a comprehensive compliance audit within 90 days post-implementation to identify and rectify any potential issues. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment and compliance validation of the new feature against all relevant regulatory requirements before deployment, ensuring all data handling, storage, and access controls meet mandated standards. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid deployment of new features and the stringent regulatory requirements for data privacy and security within the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) and its associated POM, Proactive Outreach Manager functionalities. The need to comply with specific, albeit unstated for this exam's context, regulatory frameworks governing customer data handling and system integrity means that any implementation or maintenance activity must be meticulously planned and executed with compliance as a paramount concern. The challenge lies in balancing the business imperative for innovation and service improvement with the non-negotiable legal and ethical obligations. The correct approach, which prioritizes a thorough risk assessment and compliance validation before deployment, represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core tenets of regulatory adherence by systematically identifying potential compliance gaps and ensuring that all new POM features and AEP configurations meet or exceed the mandated standards for data protection, system security, and auditability. This approach minimizes the risk of regulatory violations, financial penalties, and reputational damage. It demonstrates a proactive commitment to responsible technology deployment, aligning with the ethical duty to protect customer information and maintain system integrity as dictated by relevant regulations. An incorrect approach that bypasses or inadequately performs a compliance review before deployment is professionally unacceptable due to significant regulatory and ethical failures. Such an approach risks introducing vulnerabilities that could lead to data breaches, unauthorized access, or noncompliance with data retention policies, directly contravening data privacy laws. Furthermore, it fails to uphold the ethical responsibility to safeguard customer data and ensure the integrity of the systems entrusted to the professional's care. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on post-deployment audits to identify compliance issues is also flawed. While audits are necessary, relying on them as the primary mechanism for compliance assurance is reactive and increases the likelihood of prolonged periods of noncompliance, exposing the organization to greater risk. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and foresight, which is ethically and regulatorily unsound. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, risk-based approach. This begins with a comprehensive understanding of the applicable regulatory landscape. Before any implementation or maintenance activity, a detailed assessment of the proposed changes against these regulations must be conducted. This assessment should identify potential compliance risks and define mitigation strategies. If significant risks are identified, the activity should be paused or modified until compliance can be assured. Post-deployment monitoring and regular audits are crucial, but they should serve as a validation of pre-deployment compliance efforts, not as a substitute for them. This layered approach ensures that compliance is embedded in the process from inception, fostering a culture of regulatory responsibility. Question 11. Process analysis reveals that a planned upgrade to the Avaya Aura Experience Portal EAP with POM includes new features that will alter data routing and user authentication protocols. The implementation team is under pressure to deploy these features rapidly to meet business objectives. What is the most prudent approach to ensure the security and integrity of the AEP with POM during this upgrade? Option A. Implement the upgrade with minimal security testing, focusing primarily on functional validation of the new features. Option B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify potential security vulnerabilities and develop mitigation strategies before proceeding with the upgrade. Option C. Rely on the vendor's default security settings for the new features, assuming they are adequately secure. Option D. Proceed with the upgrade immediately to meet business deadlines and address any security issues that arise post-implementation. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify potential security vulnerabilities and develop mitigation strategies before proceeding with the upgrade. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for system functionality with the long-term implications of security vulnerabilities. The Avaya Aura Experience Portal EAP with POM is a critical communication infrastructure, and any implementation or maintenance activity carries inherent risks. A thorough risk assessment is paramount to ensure that security is not compromised during the deployment of new features or updates. The challenge lies in identifying potential threats, vulnerabilities, and their impact on the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the system, and then devising appropriate mitigation strategies. Correct approach, which involves a comprehensive risk assessment prior to implementation, represents best professional practice because it aligns with the fundamental principles of secure system deployment and maintenance. Regulatory frameworks and industry best practices, such as those implicitly expected in a professional IT environment, mandate a proactive approach to security. This involves identifying potential risks, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and implementing controls to reduce them to an acceptable level. For EAP with POM, this means understanding how new configurations might expose sensitive data, disrupt service availability, or be exploited by malicious actors. A structured risk assessment ensures that security considerations are integrated into the project lifecycle from the outset, rather than being an afterthought. An incorrect approach that bypasses or inadequately performs a risk assessment before implementing changes to the AEP with POM would represent a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Specifically, it would violate the implicit duty of care to protect sensitive customer data and ensure the reliable operation of a critical communication system. Such a failure could lead to data breaches, service disruptions, reputational damage, and potential legal liabilities. For instance, failing to assess the risk of misconfigured access controls could lead to unauthorized access to sensitive call detail records or customer information, a clear breach of data privacy expectations. Similarly, overlooking the risk of resource exhaustion due to improper configuration could lead to denial of service, impacting business continuity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, phased approach to risk management. This begins with a thorough understanding of the system's architecture, its intended use, and the regulatory compliance requirements. Before any implementation or maintenance activity, a formal risk assessment should be conducted. This assessment should identify all potential threats and vulnerabilities, analyze their potential impact, and determine the likelihood of occurrence. Based on this analysis, appropriate mitigation strategies, such as security controls, policy changes, or further testing, should be developed and implemented. Continuous monitoring and periodic reassessment of risks are also crucial to adapt to evolving threat landscapes and system changes. Question 12. Examination of the data shows that the recent implementation of Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM has introduced new pathways for customer interaction data to be processed and stored. Given the sensitive nature of this data, what is the most appropriate initial step to ensure the security and integrity of the system and its data? Option A. Postpone detailed security analysis until a security incident occurs, allowing for a more targeted response. Option B. Rely on the default security configurations provided by Avaya for AEP and POM, assuming they offer adequate protection. Option C. Implement broad, generic security controls across the entire IT infrastructure without specific analysis of the AEP and POM environment. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment specifically tailored to the AEP and POM implementation, identifying potential threats, vulnerabilities, and their impact. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment specifically tailored to the AEP and POM implementation, identifying potential threats, vulnerabilities, and their impact. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of implementing and maintaining Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM, which involves managing sensitive customer interaction data. The challenge lies in balancing the need for robust system functionality with the imperative to protect this data from unauthorized access, disclosure, or alteration. A thorough risk assessment is crucial to identify potential vulnerabilities and develop appropriate mitigation strategies, ensuring compliance with relevant data protection regulations. The correct approach involves a systematic and comprehensive risk assessment process that identifies, analyzes, and evaluates potential threats and vulnerabilities specific to the AEP and POM implementation. This includes considering technical vulnerabilities, human error, and external threats. By prioritizing risks based on their likelihood and potential impact, and then developing targeted controls, this approach ensures that resources are allocated effectively to address the most critical security concerns. This aligns with best professional practices by proactively safeguarding sensitive data, maintaining system integrity, and fostering customer trust, all of which are fundamental to responsible IT management and service delivery. An incorrect approach would be to assume that standard security measures are sufficient without a specific assessment of the AEP and POM environment. This overlooks the unique data flows and potential attack vectors associated with these systems. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on technical vulnerabilities while neglecting the human element, such as user training and access control policies, which are often the weakest links in security. Furthermore, deferring risk assessment until after an incident has occurred is a reactive and unacceptable strategy that fails to meet professional obligations for proactive security management. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with understanding the specific context of the AEP and POM implementation, including the types of data processed and the regulatory environment. This understanding should then inform the selection of an appropriate risk assessment methodology. The process should involve cross-functional teams, including IT security, system administrators, and compliance officers, to ensure a holistic view of potential risks. Regular review and updates to the risk assessment are essential to adapt to evolving threats and system changes, thereby maintaining a robust security posture. Question 13. Performance analysis shows a significant increase in call handling latency and dropped calls within the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM, impacting customer service operations. What is the most appropriate initial step to address this critical performance degradation? Option A. Initiate a broad system-wide reboot of all Avaya Aura components to clear potential temporary glitches. Option B. Immediately roll back all recent configuration changes made to the POM system, assuming they are the primary cause of the performance degradation. Option C. Prioritize addressing user-reported issues by directly adjusting individual user settings within the POM interface to improve their perceived performance. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify the root cause of the performance issues, analyzing system logs, network traffic, and recent configuration changes before implementing any remediation. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify the root cause of the performance issues, analyzing system logs, network traffic, and recent configuration changes before implementing any remediation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT risk management where a critical system component, the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM, experiences performance degradation. The professional challenge lies in accurately assessing the root cause of the performance issues and implementing appropriate mitigation strategies without causing further disruption or violating service-level agreements, SLAs. The urgency of restoring full functionality, coupled with the potential impact on customer experience and business operations, necessitates a structured and informed risk assessment approach. The complexity of the POM implementation, which integrates with various network and application components, adds to the difficulty of pinpointing the exact source of the problem. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic risk assessment that prioritizes identifying the root cause of the performance degradation. This aligns with best professional practices for IT service management and Avaya's recommended operational procedures. A thorough risk assessment would involve analyzing system logs, performance metrics, and recent configuration changes to isolate the contributing factors. This methodical process ensures that remediation efforts are targeted and effective, minimizing downtime and preventing recurrence. Adhering to established risk assessment frameworks, such as those outlined in ITIL or Avaya's own support documentation, is crucial for maintaining system stability and meeting operational objectives. This approach is ethically sound as it prioritizes the reliable functioning of a critical service, thereby protecting the interests of the organization and its users. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing immediate, broad-scale configuration changes without a thorough root cause analysis is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach risks introducing new, unforeseen problems, potentially exacerbating the existing performance issues or causing service outages. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to adhere to best practices in IT change management, which typically mandates a risk assessment before any significant modification. Such actions could lead to breaches of SLAs, customer dissatisfaction, and potential financial penalties. Focusing solely on user complaints without investigating underlying system issues is another professionally unacceptable approach. While user feedback is valuable, it is often a symptom rather than the root cause. Ignoring the technical investigation means that the underlying problem will persist, leading to continued performance degradation and an inability to provide a stable service. This demonstrates a failure to proactively manage the IT infrastructure and fulfill the professional obligation to ensure system reliability. Ignoring the potential impact on other integrated systems when making changes is a critical oversight. The Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM is part of a larger ecosystem. Unforeseen dependencies mean that a change made to address one issue could negatively affect other services, leading to a cascade of problems. This reflects a failure to conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that considers the interconnectedness of IT components, a fundamental principle of robust IT operations. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a scenario should employ a structured decision-making process rooted in risk management principles. This involves 1. Information gathering. Collect all available data including performance metrics, error logs, user feedback, and recent system changes. 2. Risk identification. Identify potential causes of the performance degradation, considering both technical and operational factors. 3. Risk analysis. Evaluate the likelihood and impact of each identified risk. 4. Risk evaluation. Prioritize risks based on their potential severity and impact on business operations and customer experience. 5. Risk treatment. Develop and implement mitigation strategies, starting with the highest priority risks. This should involve a phased approach with testing and validation at each step. 6. Monitoring and review. Continuously monitor system performance and review the effectiveness of implemented solutions. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are data-driven, proportionate to the risks, and aligned with professional standards and organizational objectives. Question 14. Operational review demonstrates that the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM is a critical component for customer service delivery. Given the potential for various threats, including unauthorized access and service disruptions, what is the most effective and compliant approach to managing the associated risks? Option A. Focus solely on meeting the minimum security requirements outlined in generic compliance checklists to ensure regulatory adherence. Option B. Defer all risk mitigation efforts for the AEP and POM systems until a future budget cycle, citing the current perceived high cost of implementing security controls. Option C. Immediately apply all available security patches and updates to the AEP and POM systems without further analysis, assuming this will address the majority of potential risks. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify, analyze, and prioritize potential threats and vulnerabilities specific to the AEP and POM environment, and then implement appropriate mitigation strategies based on the assessment findings. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify, analyze, and prioritize potential threats and vulnerabilities specific to the AEP and POM environment, and then implement appropriate mitigation strategies based on the assessment findings. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT risk management, balancing proactive security measures with operational efficiency and resource constraints. The Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM is a critical system for customer interactions, making its security paramount. However, implementing comprehensive risk mitigation strategies can be resource-intensive. The challenge lies in identifying and prioritizing risks that pose the greatest threat to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the system and the data it handles, while also considering the practicalities of implementation. A failure to adequately assess and address these risks can lead to data breaches, service disruptions, reputational damage, and potential regulatory noncompliance. Correct approach analysis. The most professional and compliant approach involves a systematic and documented risk assessment process. This process should identify potential threats to the AEP and POM, analyze their likelihood and impact, and then prioritize mitigation strategies based on their effectiveness and feasibility. This aligns with best practices in information security and regulatory frameworks that mandate risk-based security controls. For instance, in a U.S. context, frameworks like NIST SB 800-53, which is often referenced in government and commercial sectors, emphasizes a continuous risk management process. This includes identifying assets, threats, vulnerabilities, and then selecting and implementing appropriate security controls. The goal is to reduce risk to an acceptable level, not necessarily to eliminate it entirely, which is often impractical. This approach ensures that resources are allocated effectively to address the most significant risks first, demonstrating due diligence and a commitment to protecting sensitive information. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing security patches without a prior risk assessment is a reactive and potentially inefficient approach, while patching is crucial. A blanket application without understanding the specific vulnerabilities and their potential impact on the AEP/POM environment could lead to unintended consequences, such as system instability or the introduction of new security flaws if patches are not thoroughly tested. This approach fails to prioritize effectively and may waste resources on low-impact vulnerabilities while neglecting more critical ones. Focusing solely on compliance checklists without a thorough risk assessment is another flawed strategy. Compliance frameworks often provide a baseline of security requirements, but they do not always reflect the unique risk profile of a specific system like the AEP/POM. Relying only on checklists can lead to a false sense of security, as critical risks that fall outside the checklist scope might be overlooked. This approach can result in non-compliance with the spirit of regulations, even if the letter of the checklist is met. Ignoring potential risks due to the perceived cost of mitigation is a direct abdication of responsibility. While cost is a factor in risk management, it should not be the sole determinant of whether a risk is addressed. Regulations and ethical obligations require organizations to take reasonable steps to protect data and systems. Ignoring significant risks solely because mitigation is perceived as expensive can lead to much larger financial and reputational costs in the event of a security incident. This approach demonstrates a lack of professional judgment and a disregard for the potential harm to customers and the organization. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured risk management methodology. This involves 1. Asset identification. Clearly define the AEP and POM systems and the data they process. 2. Threat and vulnerability identification. Brainstorm potential threats, e.g., unauthorized access, malware, denial of service, and identify vulnerabilities in the AEP/POM. 3. Risk analysis. Determine the likelihood of each threat occurring and the potential impact if it does. 4. Risk evaluation. Prioritize risks based on their severity. 5. Risk treatment. Select and implement appropriate controls, mitigation, acceptance, transfer, avoidance. 6. Monitoring and review. Continuously reassess risks and the effectiveness of controls. This iterative process ensures that security efforts are aligned with the organization's risk appetite and regulatory obligations. Question 15. Operational review demonstrates a user request to directly access and export raw call detail records, CDR, from the Avaya Aura Experience Portal's POM database for an ad hoc performance analysis, citing an urgent need to identify potential call routing inefficiencies. The user claims this direct access is the fastest way to gather the necessary data. Option A. Conduct a thorough risk assessment of the request. Consult with the security and compliance teams to determine the appropriate data extraction method that adheres to privacy policies and regulatory requirements, and obtain explicit authorization before proceeding. Option B. Grant the user direct database access to export the raw CDRs as requested, prioritizing the user's perceived urgency for performance analysis. Option C. Inform the user that direct database access is not permitted and deny the request without exploring alternative data extraction methods or solutions. Option D. Advise the user to manually review system logs for potential inefficiencies, as direct database access is too complex and time-consuming to authorize. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough risk assessment of the request. Consult with the security and compliance teams to determine the appropriate data extraction method that adheres to privacy policies and regulatory requirements, and obtain explicit authorization before proceeding. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain data integrity and user privacy within the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) and its associated POM, Proactive Outreach Manager system. The core conflict arises from a request that, while seemingly aimed at improving system performance, could inadvertently compromise sensitive user data or violate established data handling policies. The pressure to deliver a quick solution for a perceived performance issue must be balanced against the paramount importance of security and compliance. The challenge lies in navigating the technical request with a thorough understanding of the potential downstream impacts on data privacy and regulatory adherence. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a rigorous, documented process of evaluating the request against established security protocols, privacy policies, and relevant regulatory frameworks governing data handling and system access. This includes obtaining explicit authorization from the appropriate stakeholders, e.g., security team, compliance officer, data privacy officer, after a comprehensive risk assessment. The justification for this approach lies in its adherence to the principle of least privilege, data minimization, and the requirement for due diligence in any action that could affect sensitive information. It upholds professional integrity by prioritizing compliance and security over expediency. This aligns with general IT best practices and, in many jurisdictions, specific regulations concerning data protection and system security. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the requested change without proper authorization or a thorough risk assessment constitutes a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It bypasses established security controls designed to protect user data and maintain system integrity. This action could lead to unauthorized access, data breaches, or noncompliance with data privacy laws, resulting in severe penalties and reputational damage. Fulfilling the request solely based on the urgency expressed by the user, without independent verification or consultation with security and compliance teams, demonstrates a disregard for established procedures and a failure to uphold professional responsibility. This can lead to unintended consequences, such as introducing vulnerabilities or violating data handling policies that are critical for maintaining trust and legal compliance. Ignoring the request due to a lack of understanding of POM-specific data handling capabilities, without seeking clarification or further investigation, represents a failure to adequately address a potential system issue. While caution is necessary, outright dismissal without due diligence can lead to ongoing performance problems or missed opportunities for system improvement, potentially impacting user experience and operational efficiency, and failing to meet professional obligations to maintain and optimize the system. Professional reasoning. Professionals encountering such requests should adopt a structured decision-making process. First, thoroughly understand the request and its potential implications. Second, consult relevant documentation, policies, and procedures related to data handling, security, and system access for AEP and POM. Third, engage with relevant stakeholders, including security, compliance, and data privacy teams, to conduct a comprehensive risk assessment. Fourth, document all communications, assessments, and decisions. Finally, proceed with the approved course of action, ensuring all necessary controls and safeguards are in place. This systematic approach ensures that technical solutions are implemented responsibly, ethically, and in full compliance with all applicable regulations. Question 16. The assessment process reveals that the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, impacting call routing and agent responsiveness. The implementation team is considering several approaches to address this. Which approach best aligns with professional best practices for system maintenance and performance optimization in a regulated environment? Option A. Focus only on addressing the most critical user-reported issues as they arise, deferring any proactive monitoring or system-wide tuning until a major failure occurs. Option B. Reduce the frequency of system monitoring and data collection to conserve resources, assuming that the current configuration is stable unless a significant outage is reported. Option C. Immediately implement a series of aggressive system-wide configuration changes to address the perceived issues, prioritizing speed of deployment over detailed analysis. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive performance baseline analysis. Identify key performance indicators, KPI, that are deviating from established norms, and implement targeted tuning adjustments based on observed trends and potential impact assessments. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive performance baseline analysis. Identify key performance indicators, KPI, that are deviating from established norms, and implement targeted tuning adjustments based on observed trends and potential impact assessments. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge in Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM implementations, ensuring that the chosen best practices for system monitoring and performance tuning align with the operational requirements and the underlying regulatory framework. This scenario is professionally challenging because a failure to adequately monitor and tune the system can lead to degraded user experience, service disruption, and potential non-compliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, or other contractual obligations. The judgment required lies in balancing proactive maintenance with resource allocation and understanding the impact of performance metrics on overall system stability and user satisfaction. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it involves a systematic and data-driven methodology for evaluating system performance. By establishing baseline metrics, identifying deviations, and implementing targeted tuning based on observed trends and potential impacts, professionals ensure that the AEP and POM systems operate optimally. This proactive stance minimizes downtime, enhances user experience, and demonstrates due diligence in maintaining a critical communication infrastructure. Adherence to vendor-recommended best practices and internal operational guidelines, which are implicitly tied to maintaining service quality and availability, forms the bedrock of this approach. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reactive troubleshooting, addressing issues only when they become critical, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This reactive stance can lead to prolonged service interruptions, impacting users and potentially violating contractual SLAs. It demonstrates a lack of foresight and proactive management, which is unprofessional and can have financial and reputational consequences. Another incorrect approach, which involves making broad, unverified system changes without proper testing or baseline comparison, is also professionally unacceptable. Such actions can introduce new, unforeseen problems, destabilize the system, and lead to compliance breaches due to unpredictable performance. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes cost-cutting over essential monitoring and maintenance tools, leading to insufficient visibility into system health, is ethically questionable. It compromises the ability to deliver reliable service and fulfill operational commitments, potentially leading to regulatory scrutiny if service levels are not met. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a continuous cycle of planning, implementation, monitoring, and refinement. Professionals should first understand the specific operational requirements and any relevant contractual or regulatory obligations. They should then establish clear, measurable performance indicators, KPI, and baseline metrics for the AEP and POM systems. Regular monitoring against these baselines, coupled with a structured approach to identifying and analyzing performance anomalies, is crucial. When tuning is required, it should be based on evidence, tested in a controlled environment where possible, and its impact carefully assessed before full deployment. Documentation of all changes and their outcomes is essential for auditing and future reference. Question 17. Cost-benefit analysis shows that upgrading the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM to address a known performance degradation will incur significant upfront costs, but deferring the upgrade could lead to increased operational risks and potential future compliance issues. Which approach best balances immediate financial considerations with long-term operational stability and risk mitigation? Option A. Implement the recommended upgrade to the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM to proactively address the performance degradation and mitigate future risks. Option B. Defer the upgrade and allocate a small budget for ongoing monitoring and reactive troubleshooting as issues arise. Option C. Implement a partial, temporary fix to alleviate the immediate symptoms of the performance degradation while deferring the full upgrade. Option D. Ignore the performance degradation for now, as it is not currently causing critical service outages, and reevaluate in the next budget cycle. The correct answer is A. Implement the recommended upgrade to the Avaya Aura Experience portal with POM to proactively address the performance degradation and mitigate future risks. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT project management, balancing immediate cost savings with long-term operational efficiency and compliance. The Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM, Proactive Outreach Manager, is a critical system for customer interaction, and its maintenance directly impacts service delivery and regulatory adherence. The challenge lies in identifying the most effective strategy for addressing a known performance degradation that, while not currently causing critical failures, poses a future risk and potentially impacts user experience and data integrity. A purely cost-driven decision without considering the broader implications can lead to significant downstream problems, including compliance breaches and reputational damage. The correct approach prioritizes a proactive, risk-based strategy. By investing in the recommended upgrade, the organization mitigates future performance issues, ensures continued compliance with any relevant data handling or service-level regulations. Though specific regulations are not provided for this exam, the principle of proactive compliance is universal and maintains a high level of customer experience. This aligns with best practices in IT asset management and service delivery, emphasizing preventative maintenance over reactive crisis management. It demonstrates a commitment to operational stability and customer satisfaction, which are often implicitly or explicitly tied to regulatory expectations for service providers. An incorrect approach that solely focuses on deferring the upgrade to save immediate costs fails to account for the potential for increased future expenses. These could include emergency fixes, extended downtime, or penalties for noncompliance if the performance degradation eventually impacts regulatory requirements. Another incorrect approach, which involves a partial or temporary fix, introduces technical debt and risks further instability. This can lead to a fragmented system that is harder to manage and troubleshoot, potentially creating new vulnerabilities. A third incorrect approach, which involves ignoring the issue entirely, is the most egregious, as it represents a willful disregard for known risks and potential impacts on service delivery and compliance. This can lead to significant operational disruptions, data integrity issues, and severe regulatory penalties, as well as damage to the organization's reputation. Professionals should approach such decisions by first conducting a thorough risk assessment, quantifying potential impacts, both financial and non-financial, and aligning proposed solutions with business objectives and regulatory obligations. This involves engaging stakeholders from IT operations, compliance, and business units to ensure a holistic understanding of the problem and its implications. A structured decision-making process, incorporating a comprehensive cost-benefit analysis that includes risk mitigation and long-term value, is essential for making sound, defensible choices. Question 18. Research into the implementation of Avaya Aura Experience Portal with POM has revealed a critical need to ensure that all deployed configurations adhere to established industry best practices for system stability and security. Which of the following evaluation approaches best aligns with professional standards for risk mitigation and system integrity? Option A. Deferring detailed best practice evaluation until after the system is fully operational, addressing any identified issues reactively as they arise. Option B. Relying solely on vendor default configurations without independent verification, assuming they represent optimal best practices for all deployment scenarios. Option C. A rapid, ad hoc review of only the most commonly cited best practices, focusing on immediate functional requirements to expedite the deployment timeline. Option D. A comprehensive, phased evaluation of all relevant best practices against the specific implementation requirements, prioritizing critical areas such as security and performance before proceeding with full deployment. The correct answer is D. A comprehensive, phased evaluation of all relevant best practices against the specific implementation requirements, prioritizing critical areas such as security and performance before proceeding with full deployment. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of implementing and maintaining Avaya Aura Experience Portal, EAP, with POM, which involves integrating multiple systems and ensuring seamless user experience. The challenge lies in balancing the need for rapid deployment and feature enablement, with the critical requirement of adhering to established best practices for system stability, security, and compliance. A hasty or incomplete approach to best practice evaluation can lead to significant operational risks, including service disruptions, data breaches, and noncompliance with potential regulatory mandates related to customer data handling and system availability. Even if not explicitly detailed in the exam syllabus, the underlying principles of robust system management and security are universally applicable and implicitly expected. The correct approach, which involves a thorough, phased evaluation of best practices against the specific implementation requirements, represents best professional practice because it systematically mitigates risks. This method ensures that each aspect of the AEP and POM deployment is assessed against proven methodologies for performance optimization, security hardening, and operational resilience. By prioritizing a structured review, professionals can identify potential conflicts or gaps early, allowing for proactive remediation. This aligns with the professional obligation to deliver reliable and secure solutions, minimizing the likelihood of costly post-implementation issues and ensuring long-term system integrity. An incorrect approach that bypasses a comprehensive best practice evaluation in favor of expediency is professionally unacceptable. This could manifest as a failure to adequately assess security configurations, leading to vulnerabilities that could be exploited. For instance, neglecting to review POM's integration points for potential data leakage or unauthorized access would be a significant ethical and professional lapse, as it directly impacts the security and privacy of customer interactions handled by the AEP. Another failure would be to overlook performance tuning best practices, resulting in a system that cannot handle expected call volumes, leading to degraded service and customer dissatisfaction, which is a breach of professional duty to deliver a functional and efficient solution. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a risk-based assessment. Professionals must first identify the critical components and functionalities of the AEP and POM implementation. Then they should map these to relevant best practices, considering aspects like security, performance, scalability, and maintainability. A gap analysis should be performed to identify areas where current plans or implementations deviate from best practices. Finally, a prioritized action plan should be developed to address these deviations, ensuring that critical risks are mitigated before deployment or during ongoing maintenance. This structured approach ensures that all relevant factors are considered, leading to a robust and compliant implementation. Question 19. Benchmark analysis indicates that the Avaya Aura Experience Portal EAP with POM is experiencing intermittent call quality degradation and increased call setup times. The implementation team has been tasked with diagnosing and resolving this issue. Which of the following approaches represents the most professional and effective method for addressing this critical performance problem? Option A. Immediately begin restarting various AEP and POM services in a random order, hoping to stumble upon a fix, while simultaneously instructing users to report any perceived improvements. Option B. Promptly roll back the most recent AEP software patch, without verifying if the patch is directly related to the observed performance issues, to see if the problem resolves. Option C. Focus solely on increasing the network bandwidth to the AEP servers, assuming that network congestion is the sole cause of the performance issues, without investigating other potential system-level problems. Option D. Systematically gather and analyze all available system logs from the AEP, POM, and relevant network infrastructure, correlating timestamps with reported incidents, and consult Avaya's official troubleshooting guides for known issues related to performance degradation. The correct answer is A. Immediately begin restarting various AEP and POM services in a random order, hoping to stumble upon a fix, while simultaneously instructing users to report any perceived improvements. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge where a critical component, the Avaya Aura Experience Portal EAP with POM, is experiencing intermittent performance degradation. The challenge lies in diagnosing the root cause accurately and efficiently without disrupting ongoing business operations, which rely heavily on the AEP for customer interactions. The pressure to restore full functionality quickly, coupled with the potential impact on customer satisfaction and revenue, makes this a high-stakes situation requiring careful judgment and a systematic approach. The complexity of the AEP and POM integration, involving multiple layers of hardware, software, and network dependencies, further amplifies the difficulty. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, data-driven troubleshooting methodology. This begins with gathering comprehensive logs from all relevant components, EAP, POM, underlying servers, network devices, and correlating them with the observed performance issues. Utilizing Avaya's recommended diagnostic tools and best practices for AEP/POM troubleshooting is paramount. This systematic approach ensures that potential causes are investigated logically, minimizing the risk of introducing new problems or overlooking critical evidence. By focusing on evidence-based diagnosis, the team can isolate the root cause more effectively, leading to a targeted and efficient resolution. This aligns with professional best practices for system maintenance and incident response, emphasizing thoroughness and accuracy. Incorrect approaches analysis. Making changes to the system configuration without a clear hypothesis or supporting data is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This shotgun approach increases the risk of unintended consequences, potentially exacerbating the problem or causing new outages. It violates the principle of due diligence, as it bypasses the necessary steps of analysis and verification. Furthermore, implementing changes without proper change control procedures, which are often mandated by IT governance frameworks and industry best practices, can lead to audit failures and a lack of accountability. Randomly restarting services without understanding their dependencies or the impact of the restart can disrupt critical call flows and data integrity, directly impacting service availability and customer trust. Relying solely on anecdotal user reports without corroborating system logs or performance metrics is also a failure, as it can lead to misdiagnosis and wasted effort, potentially delaying a resolution and impacting business continuity. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such an implementation challenge should adopt a structured problem-solving framework. This typically involves 1. Problem identification and scoping. Clearly define the symptoms and their impact. 2. Information gathering. Collect all relevant logs, performance data, and configuration details. 3. Hypothesis generation. Formulate potential causes based on the gathered information. 4. Testing and validation. Systematically test each hypothesis, ideally in a controlled manner or by observing system behavior. 5. Resolution. Implement the fix based on validated findings. 6. Verification and documentation. Confirm the issue is resolved and document the process and solution for future reference. This methodical approach ensures that decisions are informed, risks are managed, and the most efficient path to resolution is taken, upholding professional standards and ensuring system stability. Question 20. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in call abandonment rates and a noticeable degradation in average call handling times across the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM implementation over the past week. What is the most appropriate initial course of action to address these performance issues? Option A. Escalate the issue to the vendor for immediate intervention, assuming a critical system failure within the AEP or POM core components. Option B. Focus on retraining customer service agents on call handling techniques, assuming the performance issues are primarily due to agent efficiency. Option C. Initiate a comprehensive review of recent AEP and POM configuration changes, correlating them with the observed performance degradation, and analyze system logs for any anomalies or error messages. Option D. Immediately increase the allocated CPU and memory resources for the AEP and POM servers to proactively address potential resource contention. The correct answer is C. Initiate a comprehensive review of recent AEP and POM configuration changes, correlating them with the observed performance degradation, and analyze system logs for any anomalies or error messages. Explanation. The performance metrics show a significant increase in call abandonment rates and a degradation in average call handling times for the Avaya Aura Experience Portal (EAP) with POM. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts customer satisfaction and operational efficiency, potentially leading to reputational damage and lost revenue. The pressure to resolve these issues quickly without compromising system stability or compliance is immense. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation that prioritizes understanding the root cause of the performance degradation. This includes analyzing AEP and POM logs, reviewing recent configuration changes, and correlating performance metrics with system events. This methodical approach aligns with best professional practices by ensuring that solutions are targeted and effective, minimizing the risk of introducing new problems. It also implicitly adheres to any relevant service level, agreements, SLAs, or contractual obligations that mandate maintaining a certain level of service availability and performance. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement broad, unverified changes to AEP or POM configurations without a clear understanding of the cause. For instance, indiscriminately increasing system resources without identifying a bottleneck could lead to unnecessary costs and potentially destabilize the system. Another incorrect approach would be to blame external factors without conducting a thorough internal investigation, which could lead to missed opportunities for internal improvement and potential breaches of contractual obligations to maintain system performance. A third incorrect approach might be to prioritize a quick fix that addresses the symptom, but not the root cause, such as simply restarting services without diagnosing the underlying issue. This could lead to recurring problems and a failure to meet performance expectations, potentially violating service-level agreements. Professionals should employ a structured problem-solving framework. This involves clearly defining the problem, gathering relevant data, formulating hypotheses, testing those hypotheses through controlled experiments or analysis, and implementing the most effective solution. Continuous monitoring and validation are crucial to ensure the problem is resolved and does not recur. This systematic process ensures that decisions are based on evidence and best practices, minimizing risk and maximizing the likelihood of a successful outcome.